Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Debbie Georgiani along with Jerry Usher. And you. We always say that almost every show, but it's true. I was just sharing with just a bunch of Baraga radio listeners in northern Michigan, and they were telling me how much they love Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and I said, well, the show depends on you. With your participation, you educate us, you inspire us, you just get us closer to God with you, the fact that you listen, but more importantly, the fact that you add to the discussion by calling in. So, Jerry, I'm excited about today. This is a topic that I actually have a lot to say about.
I think just about everyone will have something to say about this. So, folks, call in early, please. We want to make sure you get on the show. Every day, Debbie and I get to the tail end. We wish we had another hour or two or three more, but we always have to tell some of you we're sorry that we couldn't get you on the show. So, please start dialing right now, 1-800- 585-9396, 800-585-9396. We have kind of playfully titled the show, Can I Borrow You for a Second? Can I borrow you for a second? Have you ever felt used by others? And Debbie, it's a delicate balance, because we know in the Christian life, as St. Paul says in Romans 12:10, we should outdo one another in showing honor. So we always want to put other people ahead of us, always be servants, have servant hearts. But there can come a time in all of our lives when all of a sudden, Debbie, we just say, wait a minute, this person is, I think, crossing some boundaries, taking advantage of me, really actually using me.
Yeah, you can feel like a doormat, actually, and that's not a good feeling. The reason why I'm saying that is because I've been there and I know what it feels like. And it's a tough place because, Jerry, I hope you think I am. I tend to be a giving person by nature. I tend to want to please people. I'm the youngest child of a big family, so I'm kind of a pleaser, a fixer, that type of thing. And I tell you, I struggle with this topic because we titled it, Can I Borrow You for a Second? And even just saying that question, can I borrow you for a second, there's that little angst inside of me that goes, I've heard that before. And I'm thinking, what do you want from me? How much is it gonna cost me, or how much am I gonna just be drained of energy? And there's big emotions that are attached to that. And so we want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to share a little bit more as we go on about a life skills training exercise that I participated in. I had shared it several times before, and I just wanted to share a little bit more about how it could relate to your life, maybe. But I'll share that later. We want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like you're being used? 1-800-585-9396.
You know these scenarios. You know them well. You go to work. There's somebody in the office, someone in the workplace. It may start out innocently enough. They say, hey, could you handle such and such of task of mine today? I'm really, really busy. And you say, yeah, hey, anything to help you out, absolutely. A week later, the same request comes. Pretty soon it's almost developing into a daily thing where they're saying, hey, could you? And you're going, wait, I think you're taking advantage. I think you're kind of crossing the line. Yeah. Or, you got a friend. You got a friend who wants to borrow your car. And you say, okay,
don't start.
Yeah, their car's in the shop or whatever. So, and pretty soon, that becomes a regular thing. And you're going, you could take public transportation. I can't keep letting you use my car. Or maybe you've got that one family member not terribly responsible with their finances and always in financial trouble and always hitting you up to kind of bail them out. So this is the thing. And what we want to know is, and it's not so much focusing on the fact that these things happen to us, but how do we respond, Debbie, in a Christian, charitable way, but at the same time not be taken advantage of? This is a really fine line sometimes. Fine
line. Absolutely. And that's what I struggle with, Jerry, because there are times, I will tell you, my husband, Marty, God love him, he would literally give our house away. Our cars, our dog Gracie, who I love, he would literally, if somebody asked him, because that's how giving and kind he is. And sometimes I'll say to him, why are you the first one to offer? Why are you the first one to step up? And he's like, well, they need something. And I said, well, everybody needs something. I mean, you have to find that, balance where you're going to say, no, I'm not giving up my car this week to you. I'm sorry, but I need it for work as well. I struggle with that, Jerry, because, is it a sin to say to someone in need, you know what, I can't help you this time? I really do. So I'm curious to see I'm curious to hear actually what our listeners have to say and their experience of this, because I think I'm going to grow from it. Here's the number, 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, and what have you done if you found that this has kind of gotten out of hand in some relationship that you have? Sometimes, we find ourselves almost in an impossible situation because you have those thoughts in your mind like, I can't stop doing this for this person. I can't stop providing this help or lending this type of support that I'm lending because they need it. And if I stop doing that, well, where's that going to leave them? Or have you charitably, but even firmly, maybe gotten out of a situation of being taken advantage of? All right, 1-800-585-9396. I will say this, Debbie. I'm probably the one who's done the taking advantage of much more than people have taken advantage of me.
I didn't want to say it, Jerry. I didn't. No, I'm
knowing,
just kidding.
Knowing my nature. But, dear listeners, it's in every one of our lives, okay? You can't escape it. We just want to know how you roll with it, how you just maintain your own space, protect your space while at the same time, being as generous as you possibly can.
Just a quick shout out real fast to St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church in Petoskey, Michigan. Thank you so much for letting me use one of your rooms here in the beautiful school and rectory. Thank you very, very much. We just are so appreciative that you allowed us to do the show here in Petoskey. And I'm actually at the Roast and Toast, Jerry, Cafe, which is just around the block in Petoskey, because it's part of Baraga Radio's Out in the Field pledge drive, where they go out into the community in addition to at Pledge Central. And we're having just a phenomenal participation at Baraga Radio. Northern Michigan is blessed to have Catholic radio going strong for 10 years. So we're in the second day. We got all the rest of today and tomorrow. So I'm just praying that Baraga Radio listeners, if you're listening to Take Two, you say you love it, please support your Catholic radio station.
Yeah, and that goes for anyone wherever you happen to be. Debbie and I are passionate about that, and you should know that by now. All right, Jill, we're going to start. Jill actually was on the line at the end of yesterday's show and just has a quick take on someone's fingerprints that are on her life, someone who influenced her. Then we're going to get to Renee and Deborah and the others on being taken advantage of and protecting ourselves. It's not a mean thing to do. We're going to talk about that on Take Two today.
Here's Peggy Normandin chatting with Catholics.
I am walking up the steps to Holy Redeemer Catholic Elementary School and ask these young Catholic students if they think they'd like to become a saint.
I'm not really sure because I think it might be hard to become one.
But isn't it hard to be good at anything?
Yeah, but also it's gonna be hard because I have a sister and we fight a lot.
Oh, okay. I know a few saints who fought with their sisters.
Yeah, because she is my sibling and...
And she does get on your nerves sometimes.
Because you can't stop that.
How well I know. I got 3 sisters of my own.
I could be a saint, but I kind of want to be a lawyer when I grow up.
Well, there was a great saint lawyer. His name was St. Thomas More, and he was a lawyer to King Henry VIII.
Oh, okay.
Call Me Catholic with Peggy Normandin. Saturdays at 1 and 11 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
The Holy Father's prayer intention for the month of September is that our parishes, animated by a missionary spirit, may be places where faith is communicated and charity is seen.
Father Mitch Pacwa.
On EWTN Open Line, we take your questions. This is kind of fun for me because it's how I started off in radio. There are lots of people who don't believe in God, and I pray for them. A non-Catholic, who, especially if they're Christians, they believe in Christ. They don't believe in the sacrifice of the Mass, but that's not going to stop me. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean?
Father Mitch Pacwa, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is Bishop John Folda of the Diocese of Fargo.
This is Raymond Arroyo, host of The World Over.
This is Monsignor Charles Pope, Morning Glory Godly Counsel. Thanks for listening to EWTN Radio.
We are so glad you are with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is your show. We're going to learn something today. I feel it. I've got my notepad out. I'm going to show it on Facebook and YouTube. See how thick it is? Look at all I've learned, Jerry. Now if I could just keep it in my head.
That's the hard part.
That's the hard part, right? Okay. Are we going to the phones?
We are, yeah. Again, the number is 1-800-585-9396. Can I borrow you for a second? That is our title of the show. The theme today is being maybe taken advantage of by other people. Maybe they don't realize they're doing it. Maybe they don't intend to do it. But we can let ourselves be used, quite frankly, taken advantage of. Have you found yourself in that situation? If so, do you get frustrated, and does it go on until you finally just maybe like blow up or something, or have you found a way to just very charitably and gently and nicely say to somebody, I really think that I've helped you all that I can. So 1-800-585-9396. Okay, mentioned that Jill was on the line at the end of yesterday's show on people's fingerprints being on our lives and influencing us. So we're going to start with that, then we'll get to your calls on today's topic. So Jill in Cedar, Michigan, listening on Baraga Radio, where Debbie is hosting the pledge drive this week. Hi, Jill.
Hi there. I really appreciate you taking my call about yesterday's fingerprints.
Sure.
I know it's not today's topic, so I appreciate you doing that. And I wanted to mention my Aunt Mary and my Uncle Gene. When I think about Aunt Mary and Uncle Gene, I just have these warm thoughts of security and love and care that they bestowed on my sister Kay and I when we were young. I'm glad that Debbie mentioned yesterday about tears, that there have been some tears, because I have tears of joy about my Aunt Mary and Uncle Gene and how they touched our lives. When we were young, both of our parents had a lot of serious illness, and life was pretty insecure, and there were a lot of hospitalizations. And at 4 different times, our Aunt Mary and Uncle Gene took us, and they had one son, and then they took my sister Kay and I in, and like tripled the number of children that they had, and they took care of us. We went from a home that was characterized by, it was uncertain, and there was fear caused by all the serious parental illness, and we were like frightened little chicks, and they were the mother hen that gathered Kay and I underneath their wings, and they provided this security for us. There's a funny little story about the earliest episode that I can remember that we had was I was 2. I remember this. My sister Kay remembers this. My Aunt Mary remembers this exactly. I was 2, and Kay was 3. And we both realized that Aunt Mary was gone. We couldn't find her. She was there in this little flat apartment, but we couldn't find her. So we panicked. And when we realized that there was a locked bathroom door between her and us, we, as a 2-year-old and 3-year-old, began banging on the bathroom door and calling after her. Well, she got kind of perturbed, and her voice really showed it. And she came out of the bathroom, and we were crying. We both looked at each other, and we were sobbing and crying because we couldn't believe this wonderful woman would yell at us. And she held us up to the mirror, and she bounced us up and down, and she sang this little ditty that she just made up. Look at the monkeys in the mirror, look at the monkeys in the mirror. And it's interesting, 60 years later, both Kay and I remember this exactly, the exact situation, the way that it happened.
Right. Jill, I have to tell you, for you to be, you were one of our last callers yesterday, and you must have been thinking about this all night, and then calling back today. It just goes to show how much you care and you love Aunt Mary and Uncle Gene. And I love the fact that you, when you speak about them, you have great memories for many years. But like you said, you get filled up with emotion, and you got to imagine that they are, or God is allowing them to feel that love, and we're always still connected. And I just want to say that love that you felt from them, I pray that so many other nieces and nephews feel that kind of love from their aunts and uncles, and that's how important family is. Because look how it's made an imprint in your life. So thank you for spending the whole 24 hours thinking about this and calling back from yesterday's show. It was a phenomenal show, and we hope to do another one again similar to that soon. So thank you, Jill. God bless you, and thank you for supporting Baraga Radio.
Yeah, thanks, Jill, for calling back today. 800-585-9396. Today we're talking about letting ourselves be taken advantage of. Sometimes we call it being used by others. Managing those relationships so that we don't lose our charitable spirit, but at the same time that we don't get taken advantage of. So what's your take? What's your experience of this been? You could really teach somebody who might be going through this right now. 1-800-585-9396. All right, Renee is next, listening in Lakeview, New York, on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Renee. We're so glad you've joined us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Welcome.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. Love your show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renee.
I just wanted to say I'm a middle child, but I felt like that borrowed person. And when you say it that way, it sounds to me like you're borrowing a tool, you know, for help here, help there. But I have moved family members and stuff like twice, each one of them. It's been like moving. I felt like the pack mule of my family sometimes. But I came to realize later that maybe God gave me the strength to do it for that reason. They had no other help. And I said, well, maybe I was a pack mule for God. But other than that, being the middle child, trying to calm arguments and stuff, you're always trying to do the right thing, and then you think of that scripture that says, somebody asks you to go a mile, go 2. And so I just sometimes felt worn out with all the chores and stuff and helping, and at least he gave me the grace to see I was doing it for him.
Right.
And not just for them. And if they take it, because I did feel like a doormat after a while.
Well, I was going to say, Renee, I was going to point out the fact, sorry for jumping on you there, but just what you did say, you turned it into something as an offering to God, and I think that's absolutely beautiful. And quoting that scripture passage, you know, if someone asks you to go a mile, go another mile, go the extra mile. And I think that kind of disposition really is coming through in what you're saying, and your heart sounds very, very beautiful on that. I'm just wondering, have you ever had any of these family members or any other individuals express to you later in life, you know, hey, you were really, really good, you were really helpful, you kind of took on the things that other people didn't want to take on, that kind of stuff. Did you ever get any kind of feedback like that?
I get thank yous from my in-laws, but my own family, maybe from my brother, but right now there's only 3 family members left. It's me, my brother, and my sister. My sister hasn't talked to me in 4 years, so I just keep praying for her. And it's just a hard thing when you only got one sister left. Well, I have other brothers and sisters, but they've already passed on. So,
well, we'll pray
family
for that
members
too.
Gone.
Yeah, we'll pray for that too, Renee, that a possible reconciliation can happen between you and your sister. So, I mean, please know that. But here's the other thing I just wanted to share real quickly. When you talked about maybe God gave you the strength to deal with it, but then later on you said, you at times you felt worn out. And I agree with both those statements, because the other thing too is, like, my mom used to say to me all the time, when you're doing things for others and you're kind of carrying the load for others, offer it up. Like, we heard that said a lot in the Catholic world, offer it up. So that's a great thing when you're feeling strong, but when you're really feeling worn out, it can also take a toll on you. And there's also that, like Jerry said, I thought he said it so brilliantly at the beginning of the show, there's a healthy balance to how much we put forth and give, and then also we need to give to ourselves in the sense to preserve ourselves so that we are able to be a strength in other situations. So I just wanted to impart that, Renee, because I hear a lot of my story and your story, and so I can relate to a lot of what you're saying.
Well, that's what made me call, Debbie, because it related to me when you said what you said. So I appreciate you. Love you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
Renee.
we love you too. Thank you.
Have a fantastic day. Keep listening to the Station of the Cross. In fact, Debbie will be there for a pledge drive in about a month as well. So
that's right.
It is that time of the year. 'Tis the season, as we say. 1-800-585-9396. As Debbie always says, that the Holy Spirit is nudging you, prompting you to call in, share your take on this topic of guarding yourself, being generous, but not being taken advantage of. What's your experience? Emily is in New Iberia, Louisiana. We're going to talk with Emily next here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hello, Emily. Is in New Iberia, Louisiana. We're going to talk with Emily next. Emily, please turn your radio down. Are you there, Emily? Hi, Emily.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
How are you?
Oh, okay.
Good.
Sorry.
No problem.
Hello?
Yeah, what's your take on this?
The Holy Spirit's always telling me to call y'all, but hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit's always telling me to call y'all, but half the time I don't get through. But I just feel like I get so many messages for people, and my cousin in New Iberia was years ago. He was a young lawyer, and he was picked up a hitchhiker. That's how long when people used to pick up hitchhikers. And the hitchhiker gave him his story. He just got out of prison, and he was trying to get to his home in Alabama or whatever. And he didn't have a car or anything, and he didn't have anything. And my cousin was a devout Catholic and had just been sort of born again, even though he was, raised Catholic and had always been a good Catholic. Well, he gave him his brand new car. And I think he was a newlywed. Well, I always think of that because I was thinking, well, what does God say, to give everything away or give up all your worldly goods or things? But
right.
His wife was furious, and so were other people. They thought he needed to be admitted somewhere, But he gave this prisoner his title to his car, his brand new car, and to this day, I don't. He doesn't live in town anymore. They moved away and had kids, but whenever I see him, I think of that, and I always think, well, I should ask his wife what she thinks about it now, because they had plenty of money, but not at that time. He was a new lawyer and everything, and what an example to tell his children and his grandchildren. I just thought, oh, how wonderful for them to know somebody who knew God so well.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
anyway,
Emily,
I just had to tell that story and see what y'all think about, like what they say in the Bible about. I feel like whenever I give up stuff or people are asking me to do stuff, that I have the Holy Spirit. I just feel like it, and I'm so grateful for everything. I try to tell my children, that they should pray. I pray all day long, but my kids are in their 20s and they're there. Mom, you're not talking normal. That's not normal talk. And I said, look, the whole world's crazy, and I'd rather be crazy with Jesus than crazy without him. And my 20-year-olds are always there, Mom. I know if I talk to you, you're going to be, because my husband says, quit talking to him about Jesus. But you have to keep telling him. You have to keep telling everybody. Right. The whole world needs to hear. Yeah.
Well, Emily, as you were talking about this hitchhiker and your cousin giving him his car, I hear in that story a very, very generous person. You want to believe a story like that, and I think, Debbie, we've all been approached by people who are down on their luck and in dire circumstances. We see them all the time now on the street corners and all of that. And I think the mentality, at least mine, has shifted a little bit, whereas I might have been quicker to do something like her cousin did some years ago than I am now. I still try to be generous to people, but I'm just thinking, what would I have done? I probably would have been afraid to pick the person up in the first place, and found out that he was just out of prison and stuff. All these thoughts, you start to label and judge. And you and I both have known people who have spent time in prison, and they're just absolutely wonderful, fantastic people. They've come to know the Lord. So I think this was it probably was a God thing, and her cousin gave this individual maybe a chance to really jumpstart his life again.
Well, yeah, I was thinking to myself this exact same thing, Jerry, and I'm thinking, I was thinking I'm like Emily's cousin's wife. I would have been furious if my husband did something like that. So I totally get it, and that's your cousin Emily. In my opinion, is a saint in the making. That's amazing. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for the call and that truly incredible story, actually. We'll be right back on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Join us.
"60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope."
The third commandment, remember to keep holy the Sabbath day. Of all the commandments, it might seem that we would get this one right. After all, it commands us to rest one day. But so often we're off to our own pursuits. God asks us to take one day to stop, reflect, rejoice, spend time with Him and with our family. But so often we're running everywhere else. It's also a day for worship. The book of Leviticus says, 6 days work shall be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest and a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is the Sabbath of the Lord. And the book of Hebrews says that we should not neglect to meet together, as is a habit of some. And so again, we're asked by God to spend time reflecting and worshiping, and likewise spend time with our family. The third commandment, remember to keep holy the Sabbath day.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Post your intentions on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's website. To get there, just click on the bright yellow J&D logo at take2show.com. Jerry and Debbie personally reply to every prayer intention that's posted. Others will also offer you their prayer support. When there's something important you want prayers for, post it on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's site. Visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo today.
Listeners to Catholic Radio, I think, benefit most, at least initially, from what I call remedial catechesis. What Catholic Radio does is it becomes an echo chamber for the teaching authority of the Catholic Church. And what we're doing is teaching many things which have been neglected over the last 40, 50 years. If you listen to Catholic Radio, you know what the Catholic Church teaches.
Al Cresta thinks Catholic Radio is important. So should you.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we're talking today about can I borrow you for a second about what it feels like when folks are constantly maybe asking you for things or requiring things of you, and does that bother you? Do you struggle with it? I know I do. I will never get Emily's cousin's story out of my head now. I don't know, Jerry. I'm going to be really honest. This is an open, transparent public confession here. I don't think I could have done it. I don't think I could have. The same things were running through my head, Jerry. Just got out of prison. I mean, I know lots of folks that have gone out of prison. Wonderful, wonderful people. But I would have been thinking all these thoughts, and then to give away my new car, I don't know. That's I need to go back to the drawing board on that one.
Well, speaking of going back, we'll get back to your calls here in a moment. From Facebook Live, though, Sean from Ohio says there's a difference between helping and enabling. There you go. In a nutshell, Sean, you have really boiled the whole conversation down. Linda says, Debbie, this is a tough one. I want to know what you think. Linda says, what if it's your parents who are taking advantage of you or using you? She says they don't manage money well and don't spend wisely. They don't plan on saving because they believe we kids should take care of them when they get older. Should we feel obligated to help? Wow.
That's a show in and of itself.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you're going to pass on.
Yeah,
that
we really should do a show on that. We really should. When family members, that's a boundaries show that has a lot of elements to it. Jerry, what do you think on that?
Well, I just think this. I think we're called to honor our parents. We're not called to support them financially. I mean, if they're like my own mother, for example. She was single mom, raised 5 kids, never had a chance to put anything away in retirement. Always lived very meagerly in her last years. So all of us, all the time, were sending her money, just because she needed it based on the circumstances of her life. And it wasn't due to irresponsibility or anything like that. And so I would say in Linda's case here, what really troubles me is the attitude of her parents, if these are her parents that she's talking about, that they, first of all, don't manage money well, they don't spend wisely, and they're not trying to save for later in life because they're they're taking for granted or assuming that the kids are going to take care of them. And I mean, it just reeks of irresponsibility. I hate to say that. And that doesn't mean Linda and her siblings should not love them, should not support them and be with them in every possible way. But if there's any way to, talk a little bit of common sense into them and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't a plan that's going to work out in the long run for you. We don't want to see you get to a place where you're destitute or just don't have the basic necessities of life. So, Linda, I would say maybe get all the family together, even if you have to do it on the phone, and just try and say, hey, Mom, Dad, you know what? Your plan isn't a good one.
Well, you know what, Jerry? You make a good point, though. If they get the family together and sit down with the parents and say, you know what, Mom and Dad, if we see a little effort on your part, you come a couple feet our way, we'll come 10 feet your way. That's a healthy, I think that's a healthy path to take. So everybody kind of does their part because here's the sad thing about what you were just sharing, Jerry, and I agree with you that it is a sense of irresponsibility on their part. But if the children pull back and then the parents were to die, are the children going to feel guilty afterwards? And that's always the after effects of what happens when children feel like they maybe could have honored their parents more. There you go.
Well, and maybe part of honoring them is trying to instill in them a sense of responsibility, which appears to be at least lacking to some degree. If not non-existent. So I think we honor people by helping them be better, be the best people that they can be. And again, I'm not saying at all don't support them financially or when they get in trouble, if they get sick, anything like that. Definitely do everything you can, but. It sounds like right now, Debbie, is the window of opportunity, because it sounds like they still have perhaps the means. She said they're not saving, so it sounds like they potentially could be.
They could save. Right.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's go back to the
I think that's great advice. Great advice. Okay, Carol. Crystal. You have been waiting so patiently in Idaho, listening on Sacred Heart Radio. Hi, Crystal. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. My situation is we live a state away from our family, somewhat intentionally. There's a lot of trouble that usually goes on in the family. There have been, unfortunately, in our generation, several of the kids got involved with drugs and stealing from the family, things like that. I feel like these kids have good hearts, but they're just make poor decisions, and their lives are the homes that we come from. Maybe not the most stable, but anyway, my mom passed away, and she was supporting my brothers and sisters. We actually had one brother pass away. Unfortunately, kind of in those same circumstances, and my sister is homeless. She has a 12-year-old son that my mom was raising, and my mom had set aside all that she had left, a very, 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 very small amount, and put it in my care to provide for my brother and sister I have been trying to be, we are Catholic, and when we try to be, it's very important to me to be faithful, to do God's will, to do what He would have me do, and I ask Him to help me with that. It's very difficult. My sister, from what I know, she's sleeping in her car. My nephew, other people in the family have asked us to take him, but we can't just take him. Apparently, my sister says that he's in good care at a friend's home, a place that it sounds like my mom would have preferred he be. In any case, my sister asks me for money, and we've been very, very careful about sending money, and I've told her that I will no longer send money. And she's said things that make me feel that she's turning to me for help, and I'm turning her down. It's very, very difficult. But people that see her say that they believe she's doing drugs. She's behaving as though she's doing drugs. She's not taking care of her son. Now, I know that she has a good heart and she wishes to, and I know I'm taking a lot of time, so I'll just cut to the chase. She calls and asks for money. I just went and bought her, it's been a while now that I've said I will not give her anything, but she's in her car. And so I bought a few food gift cards and a fuel gift card, and I'm going to send them. But how far, my mom's money, I don't want to spend it frivolously. Right. I just don't know how far to go.
Okay, well, we're not experts in this, and we're not counselors, but we've lived a long life, both of us, and so we've seen a lot, and maybe this could be of some assistance. First of all, Crystal, you said that you're Catholic. Please seek some spiritual direction on this, because this is also, I can tell by the way you're speaking, you're struggling with it. Even just like you said, how far do I go? Do I use up all my mom's money for her? When do I say no? And I'm sure you're probably thinking, if I say no and something bad happens, then that's weighing on you. And then talking about her child. Right. So it's a domino. It keeps going on and on and on. So first off, you got to start at the beginning and get some spiritual direction. I would go to your church, for a deacon, a religious, catechetical leader, or a sister, or your priest. I know they're busy. Some don't take on a lot of spiritual direction, but ask that you just need another person you need to pray with and talk with about this, so that you can feel at peace dealing with it. That's the first thing I would suggest. The second is, I would also seek out counselors in where your sister is and where your nephew, I believe, is staying, and find out what resources are available to you, because right now there are a lot of free resources in every area, and people don't even realize they can tap into them. The reason why I know that is because about 7 years ago, something tragic happened in my neighborhood, and it was similar to what you're talking about. And I didn't know where to turn. And I happened to go to the town that I was living in, and on the town site, online, was about 100 resources, free. I couldn't believe it. I kept looking, and I'm going, this is amazing. A lot of people don't realize that there's all these programs out there now that are willing to at least assist you in dealing with maybe getting some intervention, helping your sister, getting her off living in her car, and helping also in securing, because the safety, in my personal opinion, the safety of your nephew, because he's a child, I think you said he's 12, I believe, Crystal, is most important. Jerry, is there anything you can add to that or change?
The only thing I was going to add, you actually did. I was going to say seek out agencies. There are agencies that can help relieve this, Crystal. You don't have to do this alone. And the agencies, what they will do is they will undoubtedly offer help, but they do this all the time, so they will be able to evaluate the situation, and they will find out if she is spending the financial resources on things like drugs. I suspect that they will have the conviction to say, well, we cannot give you financial resources because of that. They can definitely continue with food and clothing and medicine and maybe even counseling and so forth. But they will have, Crystal, they'll have the experience to be able to kind of figure this out. And do so from the standpoint of what's best for the people that they're helping out. Right now, all you can see, you're just seeing this through one lens, and that's the eyes of love. That's the eyes of charity. And it's difficult sometimes for us to really look at it in more of the tough love kind of way. I don't know. Does any of this make sense, Crystal?
It does. It's so helpful because it's coming from a place that is focused on God. All that we talk about, or all that you talk about on your show, is centered on God's will and God's way. And that's what's most important to me, is, to do this in such a way that would be pleasing to Him. And it's, I love her, and I love her son, and I want to help. But I don't want to. Right. I don't want to do, and I don't want to enable if that's not God's will, and I can't believe that it would be. But that's, that it's very helpful. It's a great suggestion.
And Crystal, you don't have to give us his name because we're just going to pray. Did you say he's 12 years old? Your nephew?
He is.
Okay, we're going to pray for him.
Name.
Okay. Go ahead, Crystal.
I don't know whether I should say his name on.
That's okay. No, you know what? That's right. I'd rather we're just going to pray for your Crystal's sister and your 12-year-old nephew, because that's important. The other thing too, Crystal, pray to his guardian angel and her guardian angel, especially to protect her. You've got to get assistance on this. So many times we go through these situations and we feel like we're all alone. That's not true. That's not true. We're not alone. So we're going to pray, Crystal, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I've just been afraid in a way of, they've been through a lot. I will say that they've been through some terrible, 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 unbelievable losses over and over and over again in life. My sister lost her first son to drowning. Very, very tragic. So the two of them, they feel like they're all that they have left in the world, and I've not wanted to separate them. So going to the authorities has made me a little nervous, but it sounds like it's just I know that he's in a safe, quote-unquote safe situation right now, but it's not. It just seems like I need to take the next step. I just I'll hope and pray for the best in the situation. It's a difficult situation.
Yeah, and we'll pray with you. We'll pray with you. Absolutely. Absolutely. So count on our prayers, Crystal.
Yeah, and get that help, though. The first place I would look, as Debbie said, Crystal, is maybe your church, your parish, whether it's, as Debbie said, whether it's the priest, there might be a deacon who does ministry, religious sister, somebody at the parish. You can just really sit down and kind of clear your head, put it all out there and just kind of let them help you see it more objectively. And I think with that help and God's prayers and all the Take Two family praying, I think we can expect good things to come out of this, Crystal. So thank you so much for your call.
Jared,
thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Keep us posted. I just wanted to say real quickly, talking to Crystal and the other callers calling in, these are discussions that we would not be having anywhere else. And thank God for EWTN. Thank God we can have these wonderful soul-to-soul discussions. And we're all journeying closer to God. And so it's a perfect segue into just putting in this shout out to all the media missionaries of EWTN. Thank you for the work you do in the communities, just spreading awareness and making sure that the parishes have the information they need, that EWTN is going strong, it's thriving in the communities, and that's awesome. And so if you ever wanted to be a media missionary and just to be a voice out there to let others know that Catholic television and radio is changing hearts and winning souls, then go visit EWTNmissionaries.com today and join the eternal word with the world.
All right, Daniel and Debbie, hang on. Carol got in right ahead of you, so we'll get to you right after we go to Rochester, New York, and speak with Carol listening on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Carol. Welcome to Take Two with Jared. Oh, yeah, we're going to go to Carol in Rochester, listening on the Station of the Cross. Sorry about the hiccup there, Carol. Welcome. How are you?
Welcome. I'm fine, thank you. How are you today?
Doing well. What do you have for us?
What I wanted to say, it's a situation that just happened to me within the last 30 days of not allowing people to use you, because you are the one that's wrong as well as them. And I had a neighbor who was a do-gooder, and she has OCD very badly. And so I was kind of, I let her get away with this and I let her get away with that, because I didn't want to offend her. I wanted her to feel, she didn't feel welcome. She was in a lousy marriage, and I just wanted her to feel welcome. Well, I welcomed her too much, and it caused a big problem. She had a key to my house, and she would come in my house when I wasn't home, and she rearranged my basement, and
I think we're...
came in my bedroom.
There we go.
And she didn't use the bathroom at her house, so it would stay clean. She would walk over to my house and use my bathroom. She didn't use her kitchen stuff like her microwave and that kind of stuff, because she would come over and use mine, so hers didn't get dirty. And it just got, she would come over and she'd say, have you got, I don't know, salt? And I'd say, no. Yes, you do. It's downstairs and blah, blah, blah. And she knew everything I had, and she knew where it was more than I did.
Is this still going on, Carol?
Well, I'll come to the end. I let this build until I just got really angry with her one day, and I just really came unglued. I said very, very nasty things to her. And it really wasn't the situation of that day. It was the situation of all of this.
Right.
And so they were going to move. So I was glad. Yay, they're going to move. I don't have to put up with her anymore. And I don't want to talk to her. I wanted to stay over there. I wanted to remember what I said, and I wanted her to feel bad. And then, things get moving in you, and you think, Carol, that wasn't very nice. But I'm not going to tell her no.
Carol, let me share something, Carol, because I think you have actually brought to light here something that Debbie will vouch for this. I have a horrible see, Debbie's laughing already.
I know what he's going to say. Go ahead.
I do tend to, I think, sometimes be used or taken advantage of. And well, let me put it this way. I have difficulty setting proper boundaries, Carol, and it sounds like in this case anyway, that's what you did, or I should say you did not do.
At the start.
And it's funny, we want to trust people, and we want to think people have the best intentions. And this other lady, without judging her, we don't know her, we don't know the situation, but some people interpret generosity, Carol, as a sign of saying, hey, have at it, go for whatever you want. Here's the key to my house. Carol, that's basically an invitation for her to do the things that she did. Well, at least I wouldn't do those kind. I mean, I might, occasionally use somebody's house if I had to, but rearranging the furniture and all of that stuff, and not using the appliances in her own house, rather going to your house. So, Carol, hopefully you have learned from this. But Debbie, I guess where I was going with that is I have found myself getting to the point of real frustration before.
Yeah.
And then we tend to act in a way toward these people that's quite the opposite of what our initial intention was. We wanted to be generous, charitable, and helpful. And pretty soon you realize, you've gotten yourself into something where you're being taken advantage of and you don't know how to get out of it. And then often what happens is the only way you find a way out is just by, I don't know, it kind of boils over. Yeah. So
it boils over. Yeah, totally. Carol, we've all been there. And you know what? You had the good intentions. You started off great. It sounded like you said your neighbor had some OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder. So she probably wasn't even thinking she was taking advantage, but she was. Okay. And you kind of blew up at her. Okay. Relieve yourself of that guilt by going to confession and saying, a prayer for her and move on. Because here's the thing. Satan totally wants us to constantly replay that over in our head in almost an OCD fashion. And that's not healthy. You had the best intention. God reads your heart at the initial. I mean, you're human. I mean, after a while, it would have bugged me too if she had a key to my house and was rearranging the furniture. So I hear you, Carol. You're not alone. What do you think, Jer? Would that have bugged you if somebody came into your home and rearranged your furniture?
Yeah, well, there aren't many people I would give a key to my home to, but...
There you go.
But anyway, yeah, it's we admire your generosity,
Yes.
Carol. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. We got to get to Debbie real quick in Vermont. We got about two or 2.5 minutes here. Debbie, listening on Sirius XM 130. Debbie, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Welcome to the program. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, are you there?
Yep, we are here. We got about 2 minutes for you.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi. So I was calling. Crystal had called in before with her sister that was living in a car, and I have dealt with addiction in my own family, and I just wanted to add that hats off to her for helping everybody and being in the situation that she is in. She's really a tremendous person. My hat is off to her. But I just wanted to add that I know from my own experience, and we've had kind of a long haul, but we're on the right road now. So first off, know that there's hope, and people can get through these things, even though they're in them for years and years. Remember that when the person that is struggling with addiction calls you, asking for money or saying things that aren't very nice, remember that it's not them so much as it is the addiction, whatever it is, whether it's heroin or whatever drug of choice they're using, it sort of co-opts them and takes over and is demanding and insulting and cruel. But I know that people talk about enabling, and certainly you don't want to be handing large amounts of cash over, but there's always taking somebody out for something to eat. There's always taking their car and filling it with gas for them. I know that sometimes gift certificates can be used in exchange for drugs. That's something that is a trade-off. But I just wanted to say my hat is off to her, and God love her, and I'll be praying for her.
It's great advice. What do you think, Jer?
Debbie, I'm so glad that you called. And you pointed out something, too, again, that I think is very important, and this would be its own show as well, Debbie Georgiani, and that would be, I often say addiction is a very horrible taskmaster. When someone is really enslaved in any addiction, whatever that addiction may be, like Debbie, you pointed out, Debbie in Vermont, you said it's not, we have to understand this. And Debbie, we've got to do a show on this. We haven't already. And that is, if you're living with or close to someone who is in an addiction, the temptation is sometimes to say, well, they chose that, or they're a bad person because of that, or whatever. And yet, it may be a result of personal choices, but those choices often flow from brokenness, woundedness, what have you, and the experiences that somebody went through. Not letting anybody off the hook, but we have to try and see in through the addiction to the heart of the person, their dignity, their worth. And so, Debbie in Vermont, thank you so much for pointing that out for us.
Yes, thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Wow. Jerry, another great show. How much time do we have left? I don't have a clock in front of me.
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Okay, I got it. 90 seconds?
There's a couple real quick. Another Facebook Live, Tim in Ohio.
Go ahead.
Tim says, yes, I was literally used by a person who is Catholic in name only. Sad to say, this person is very self-centered and is in need of our prayers. And Sam on YouTube says, so can you feel used by people who keep asking you to pray for them, maybe for the same thing every time, and they never go to church or advance toward life with God? That's one I wouldn't feel used by, Sam, because, I mean, prayer is something we can all do. Doesn't cost us anything financially, and when people ask me to pray, I have people who ask me, Debbie, all the time to pray, sometimes for the same thing, and I will do it, absolutely, because that's the most important thing we have and the greatest thing that we have. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to share that tomorrow we have another great show planned. It's titled Making the First Move Toward Reconciliation. So start thinking about that. There's forgiveness and then there's reconciliation. I think it's going to be a fascinating discussion tomorrow, Jerry.
I do too. So husbands and wives, when you have a little bit of a spat, does one or the other of you tend to make the first overture toward reconciliation in your marriage? Think about that. Pray about that. And we'll all learn about it tomorrow. Debbie, keep up the great work. You and Dave there at Barriga Radio.
Thanks so much. Until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day. We'll see you real soon.